Hello, this is Jacob_114, and today I'm here to review episodes 3 through 5 of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. This is a continuation from last week's review of 1 and 2, so let's get right into it. Now, obviously this won't contain spoilers, so episode 3 picked off from the cliffhanger from episode 2. So if you didn't watch episode 1 through 2, go watch it right now, but basically, Peter gets his identity revealed to Norman, and you would think that's a bad thing due to the tone that last week's episode ended off. No, it turned out to be a complete good thing. Everything's good. Norman's not evil. He's actually surprisingly good, and I kind of like this iteration of Norman. He's positive. He's not evil looking, or he doesn't seem to be causing any harm. He's actually good towards Peter, and he seemed like the perfect mentor for this iteration of Peter if Iron Man isn't around. Now, the story in this episode, Peter having to deal with villains. I think their name is Speed Demon, and who's the other one? Speed Demon and Tarantula is this episode's villains. And as a side plot, they're okay. But anyway, one part of this episode, like one half of it, the Peter and Norman story, it's going good. Peter's going a good life right now. He's trying to work his way through being Spider-Man and trying to keep all of his loved ones out of harm. And I like this about him. Like, again, he is a gifted youngster and he has good morals. And his own self-rule on how he doesn't want anyone to help him with his Spider-Man work, and he'd rather work alone than let Norman or anyone else help him. It's a good moral, because it's allow him to keep his loved ones safe instead of having to put them in harm's way. But by the end of this episode, he eventually does team up with Norman, and that's what I like about it, because he's willing to accept Norman into his lifestyle as Spider-Man. Meanwhile, one side of this episode's good, the other side, with the other side plot, like Lonnie Lincoln, oh boy, I can just see the downfall of this character. Last week, I really enjoyed Lonnie Lincoln. I think he is such a nice person, kind person, instead of the mean bully for Peter Parker. And I really like this character at the beginning, but this episode is just foreshadowing and revealing so much on what's going to happen to him later on in the show. So yeah, overall, episode 3 was good. While one half was leading to a good pathway for the show's future, other half of this episode was leading to the downfall of a well-beloved character that I think everyone really loved at the start. And now, he probably will descend into evil. I just got done watching episode 4 of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and this was another banger. Actually, excuse me, this time, it was actually a really, really good episode. First, I love the montage where Norman is trying to recommend Peter different suits that he is creating with this new machine. And, like, this machine is so advanced, it creates so many new suits that they're pretty good ideas, but kind of take it away from the whole Spider-Man theme. Of course, some of the suits, all these suits don't work out, but one suit at the end that I mentioned last week, the Future Foundation suit, works. And oh my gosh, how this suit works is fascinating. It's fireproof, it's so more agile, it's just beautiful, man. Now, and for the side plot of this episode with Lonnie Lincoln, of course, he's doing tasks for the gang and stuff. But this side plot eventually introduces us to another gang. And I think this season finale, its predictions, or maybe for another side plot, it will probably lead into one big gang war between Lonnie Lincoln's gang and what this new gang called the Scorpions, which, if you guessed it, Matt Gargan is running the Scorpion gang. It is awesome. I am here for it. Now, there were no villains in this episode, but towards the end of this episode, the criminals that we were following for like one scene, it introduces us to a new character, which I really hope they do this character well, because his design's already great so far. I love this design so much, and his voice actor is doing great so far. And I love the revelation of how he is behind all of the villains with high tech that have been appearing in these past episodes. And finally, one more thing I loved about this episode, whenever Peter's dealing with these criminals that reveal the new character, instead of chasing after them in the big truck, he decides to stay back and help this people that are stuck in this big accident caused by a big explosion. And that's what I like about Peter. Instead of chasing after the big criminal, he wants to stay back and help the people of his city, which is a pretty good moral for him, because those people would have died if they stayed in the fire. So I'm kind of glad Peter stayed back to help those people. But yeah, basically episode 4 was a good episode. Now time to get into episode 5 to end off this review. And finally, I just got done watching episode 3, and this was another banger. 3 in a row, 3 for 3. This was such a good episode, and I loved it quite a lot. Of course, like I said, the show had little nods to the MCU and comic stuff. But I just want to point out one funny thing on how, in the beginning of this episode, Nico and Peter just discussing the Sokovia Accords is so funny to me. I don't know why, but in this universe, apparently Peter's a Captain America fan, which totally switches up because in the MCU, he's an Iron Man fan, so it's kind of really funny to me. But anyway, yeah, the Unicorns Unleashed was really good. To back away from Peter for one moment, Lonnie's story in this episode is pretty good, although it shows him having a trouble to do a life with him being in a gang in school. It pretty works out pretty well in the end, because then he finally gets his name in the gang that we all know him by, Tombstone. And of course, I predicted it. There was a gang fight in this between the Scorpions and Lonnie's gang, so I was really on spot with that prediction. I just thought it'd be a season finale or a big event. But in this episode, we see, of course, Matt Gargan and the new character, which I'm going to reveal now, Dr. Otto Octavius. And of course, Matt Gargan and Otto Octavius don't have their advancements yet, but when they do, bro, it's going to be so beautiful. And Dr. Octopus, or Dr. Otto Octavius so far, he is a number one hater, bro. Like, he despises Stark, he despises Banner, and he despises Oscorp so much. I'm so glad he's not being funded by Oscorp, and he's his own solo scientist working on his own with an assistant. I really think the downfall and the corruption of Otto Octavius throughout this series will be so well done. Of course, this guy's already evil, making tech for other people, but when he becomes true evil, he will probably be like compared to freaking PS5 Otto Octavius, to how much of this guy is evil and how much of a hater he is probably towards Osborn, and how well his arc with Peter will be. I also love Harry's dynamic in this. He's not rude like in the Raimi verse, or he's not bad adaptation like in the Andrew Garfield movies. This Harry's pretty chill, and I like him, and he's sort of a replacement for Ned as being a guy in the chair, which I kind of like that about Harry. He's pretty chill about that, and I really hope him, Peter, and Miko all form like a friend group trio, because that's what it seems like at the end of the episode. And that's pretty much what I like about this episode. It was pretty good. One thing, the villain in this episode, the Unicorn, which I know since it sounds like a funky name, but the fight with the Unicorn was pretty good. I liked it, and I also liked the character arc with this one character who I think turns out to be the Rhino. I think they were definitely hinting at this character eventually becoming the Rhino, but they'll probably save that for a future season, since they're already doing season 2 and season 3. But yeah, the character arc of this criminal was done very well, cause like, how do I explain it? In one moment, Peter wants all of a sudden defending him now that the Unicorn was gambling with this criminal's life, who turns out to be the Rhino. And when he gambles with his life, Peter decides to step in and save her. But then the Unicorn's all about to kill Peter, but the Rhino comes just in time just to save Peter, which I like that about this character. And although he doesn't want to be friends with Peter or Spider-Man, he still respects him, and that's what I like about this character. He also is a good-hearted, but also evil at the same time. But yeah, without all that, all these episodes were good for 3, and I'd probably bump this show to an 8 out of 10. It's starting to get the vibe of it. I'm starting to like this show way more better than I liked it last week. Of course, in general, I do think the swinging and action still hold up, and they're starting to become a little bit more better. I'm starting to like the action more. I'm starting to like the fight scenes with Peter and his side villains. It's pretty well done, and I love the little Easter eggs and nods to these different characters in MCU. But with all of that, yep, the show's an 8 out of 10. I like it. I'll review the next few episodes that are coming out this week on Wednesday. So that's it for today's review. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man episode 3 through 5. I think these were a pretty good batch. I cannot wait for next week with Daredevil. Alright, that's it for today's review. Goodbye. See you later.